You want to talk about TV? June? Lily? Is the light too much? Yes. Well. Okay, okay, so should I just talk? I'll just do it. Okay, I'll just do it.
Welcome to Binge Watchers, where we talk about the stories and characters we love and the shows they live in. My name is Ron, and let's talk about Season 1 of Warrior. The elephant in the room, of course, it's that it's been almost a year. Happy to talk about why it took so long. All good things. If you want to hear more about that, we can do a live stream or a Q&A video. Just let me know in the comments down below. But for now, let's talk about this show, Warrior. Warrior is a martial arts showcase. It's a show from Cinemax. I watched it on Prime Video. They say it's based on writings from Bruce Lee, so there's that. And it tells the story of San Francisco in 1878. Specifically, the show follows Assam. He's a martial arts prodigy who makes his way from China to the US looking for something. But instead of being put to work mining or building railroads, he ends up joining the Hop Way, one of the gangs in Chinatown in San Francisco. The show then spends a lot of time focusing on Assam and his journey with the Hop Way and the quest that originally brought him to the US, but we also get to see a lot of different aspects of San Francisco in that time, which I thought was really cool. There's a good mix of perspectives that show you the politics of the local government and the gangs, as well as the street level action. All of it somehow revolves around the complicated relationships between the Americans and the Chinese in that time. Now, the plot here is solid, but it's simply not what the show is about. Just like most Bruce Lee films are at their core a Bruce Lee martial arts showcase, this show is about beautifully choreographed fight scenes. I'm not saying this show doesn't have an interesting story. It very much does, and we'll talk about all of that in a minute, but I am saying that's not what this show is about. On the promise of impressive and satisfying martial arts set pieces and action, this show delivers, and then some. The folks over at Cinemax know their stuff when it comes to quality action in TV. Binge is one of the best, if not the best show I've ever watched in terms of action. Strike Back, until the last couple of seasons at least, was just a fun, wild ride, and Warrior is a beautiful show that features brutal and incredibly graceful fight scenes. Another thing to note is not just the fights themselves, but the cinematography. I don't think there's a single heavily edited fight scene in this show. The actors performing these fights are undoubtedly talented martial artists. Most fights are shot from wide, relatively static angles that make it easy to see exactly what's going on, and it's great. It's the John Wick school of fight cinematography, and I love it. You'll also notice that the show features multiple fighting styles, from the graceful and quick movements of the Chinese characters to the more blunt and heavy Irish boxing. The show makes sure that it doesn't feel like you're watching the same scene over and over again. Every fight scene feels unique. I know that I just spent a lot of time talking about anything but the story and the characters, and we'll talk about that now, but the action scenes are just such a big part of this show. I couldn't help at some point think about Iron Fist, a show that was supposed to be all about martial arts and only sort of delivered on that on season 2. If the folks who made Warrior were somehow involved with Iron Fist, maybe Iron Fist would have been better, maybe it would have delivered. It would still have Danny Rand though, which reminds me that when he's not kicking ass, the main character here in Warrior can also be a little insufferable, but not at Danny Rand levels, nowhere close. I really liked most of the characters in this show. The policemen give you an interesting perspective on the conflict of the city wanting to use the Chinese as a cheap labor force, and the city also hating the Chinese for stealing their jobs. You add in a language barrier, racism, even the criminals in Chinatown are just trying to get by, and you get a very fragile powder keg of a situation. And the police officers, Bill and Lee, show you the fine line between corruption and justice they kind of have to walk. The show also does a really good job at diving into their own personal stories and tying them back into the main story. Assam himself is an interesting character, and his role in the brewing war between the Chinatown gangs is a solid story. The only thing that really bothered me is that his performance, not as a martial artist, that's amazing, but as an actor was just not as good as the other characters. It makes it very noticeable. Now, Assam is a kind of an asshole, which is fine, because some people are cocky assholes, so some TV characters must also be, but the combination of him being just a bit too annoying and not delivering it really well, like not as well as the others, made his character not as fun to watch. There's a hint of Danny Rand, but it's a minor thing. I still enjoyed the hell out of this show. There are some leaps that the show makes when it comes to characters trusting each other, like not too much time has passed and we haven't seen any big character moments yet, but then someone will be like, "You are my brother and I trust you with my life." And you just don't necessarily buy it, but you know, if this was a big character-driven drama, that would have been an issue. Here, it's not like this show is just pure mindless action, but the character moments aren't really what you're there for. Interestingly enough, the characters I felt were the most well-developed were the supporting cast. Atoy, who runs the brothel, Chow, who's sort of a businessman, the police officers. I would have loved to spend more time with any of these characters. Bottom line, should you watch it? If you're looking for a high-quality, action-packed show, then yes, Warrior is a great-looking show from the sets to the costumes to the amazing fight scenes. It tells an interesting story about the tensions between Chinatown gangs, as well as how the local government is trying to capitalize on this situation. That's a word. It has been renewed for season 2 by Cinemax, so there's more to look forward to. That's always a good thing. So yeah, I had a really good time with this show. I would absolutely love to know what you thought about this show if you have watched it, and if not, just look, what are some really good action shows? What are some of the shows with the best martial arts or fight scenes or any action of any kind that you've seen and that you love? If you're going to be talking about spoilers, please use spoiler tags in your comments. And if you're finding Binge Watchers for the first time, welcome. I'd like to invite you to join the Binge Watchers community. Come talk about TV with us. It's a good time. Subscribe to the channel. But in any case, keep binging, and I'll see you next time.